5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
offtheropes.com. What's your legacy?
Hi, and thanks for joining me for the Off the Ropes podcast. I'm Victoria, and I'll be presenting a weekly show bringing you some of the world's most inspiring individuals, but not just those who have achieved enormous success, specifically those who have endured hardship and adversity and overcame their challenges. Plus, I'll be speaking with experts in the field of nutrition, health, fitness, and personal development to extract their wisdom on how to optimize your performance, fulfill your potential, and learn how to get your life off the ropes. Miles Daisher couldn't be more off the ropes if he tried. A member of the elite Red Bull Air Force with a record-breaking 4,100 base jumps and a rapidly climbing 7,000 skydives, his unrelenting enthusiasm and passion for hurling himself off extreme peaks is palpable and infectious. He animatedly discusses his most challenging jumps and most terrifying, his unbridled motivation for pushing boundaries beyond the realms of perceived possibility, and recounts many an adventure with close friend, the late Shane McConkey. Warning: listening to Miles may render your life utterly dreary in comparison. Let's meet him. Hi, Miles. Before we hear about some of your awe-inspiring 4,000 base jumps and over 7,000 skydives, can you just explain what base jumping is exactly?
Yeah, base jumping is like taking parachuting sports to the next level. Usually you jump out of an airplane and you have two parachutes. You open the first one above 2,500 feet and you have that much time to correct it if there's a problem with it, cut it away and open up your backup parachute, which is a reserve parachute. And base jumping is basically you take your reserve parachute and you take it down to a place where it's as low as you can go and jump off of either a building. It's a fixed object is what base is an acronym, and it stands for building, antenna, span, and earth, and a span being a bridge or a cable car. So there's different things you can jump off of, fixed structures. And the air is not like going really fast like in an airplane where you're doing 90 to 100 miles an hour before you jump out. You're actually just standing there in quiet airspace, talking to your friends and like, are you guys ready for this? Okay, here we go. Ready, set, see ya. And you jump. We all say that, ready, set, see ya, because I'm going to see you down at the bottom. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And and basically you're trusting your life to all of your balance skills, your body awareness, and your pack job and your gear. So you got to have a lot of trust in your equipment, and it's highly specialized gear. Base jumping equipment is designed specifically to open quickly and at lower altitudes. And there's different types of base jumping. There's, you could be a building guy who likes to go jump different buildings. You could be a cliff jumper who likes to fly wingsuits. There's not just the really low stuff. There's also some of the world's tallest cliffs. You could jump. You've got like 1,000 feet to jump and start flying your body. And with the wingsuit and the modern technology, you can start flying in about 3 seconds now. With the Aura 2, which is an amazing suit. And you could fly your body at a 3-to-1 glide ratio. So every foot you drop, you fly 3 feet forward once you get started flying. And you can, you take a cliff that has 1,000-foot drop, and then it's up way high on the mountain with a lot of talus and big boulder fields and that kind of thing. And you could outfly the boulder fields and all the trees and forests below. And you could make 1,000-foot rock drop sometimes into some mountains that have like a 5,000 foot, you're 5,000 feet looking up at a peak, and you could make it all the way down to the bottom.
It sounds insane and exhilarating. Where did your passion for hurling yourself off tall things come from?
Oh, it kind of grew over the years. I started out, my father was in the Air Force, and we would be, stationed at different Air Force bases around the world. And I have a big love for the sky and for things that fly in it. So I'm my dad's always telling me, learn to fly jets and never paint yourself into a corner, always give yourself an out, and it was kind of like Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. I would just write everything down in my brain, and okay, learn to fly jets. And I didn't learn to fly jets because I was, didn't want to kill people, and that's not my thing. And that's what I thought jet pilots did. And I wish I had listened to him after flying in a jet because it was amazing. But I just started out the son of an Air Force pilot, watching airplanes and going to the swimming pool and jumping off diving boards and taking judo and learning how to throw my body around and land it in the pool. And then in college, I got into bungee jumping, and my roommate, Jim Fritch, he had a Primal Instinct bungee jumping company I used to go work with. Mm-hmm. And then after college, I graduated to be a PE teacher, thinking that, hey, let's play our rest of our lives. Let's go teach people to play dodgeball or something, and it'll be really fun. And being physically fit is very important to me. I did a lot of sports in high school and college. And then after graduating college, I moved up to Squaw Valley, USA, in Tahoe, California, to go ski for a season, and that turned into 11 years. And while I was there, I started skydiving. And I moved into the Primal Instinct bungee house, and we met lots of people in there. And excuse me, one of them was Frank Gambale, and my roommate, who was a skydiver who also base jumped, but he was always so secretive, No, I'm not showing you these videos. I'm like, I'm not seeing these videos. It was pretty funny. Don't tell anyone about this. I'm like, why are you telling me? I don't understand. But he would show us these videos of him base jumping, and it was just like, whoa, that's crazy. And at first I was like, dude, you're out of your dang mind, man. I'm not doing that. And but where did you learn how to skydive? Because that's something I always wanted to do. When I was 8 years old, I saw a guy parachute into a 4th of July festival, and I'm like, I want to do that someday. And Frank knew the guy. We're going to Skydance skydiving, and here we go. And oh man, it was just, since my first jump on September 6th, 1995, it was just, I swallowed the hook, line, and sinker. It was just like, whoa, this is the newest, coolest thing going. And I got to figure out how to get a job at the drop zone. I'll start sweeping floors, whatever it takes. What do I do? And it's funny because I lived in a tent. I slept in a tent for 2.5 years, and with some of the friends that I jump with today. And we moved up to Skydive Lake Tahoe, and I was packing parachutes for a number of years. And then I started doing tandem skydives at Skydive Lake Tahoe. And when I was packing parachutes, I just made enough money to eat and to buy jumps. Everything to me was in jump numbers. $25. I'm like, that's 2.5 jumps.
So what would the natural career path be for somebody who's a base jumper? Yeah. What's the ultimate? What were you ultimately aiming for?
I was just having fun and enjoying my life. I thought that was the most important thing, is to just enjoy your life. You only get one time around on this spinning ball in the universe. You might as well enjoy it and make the best of it. And I was brought up as a Boy Scout, and I always try to make things nice for everyone around you, and try to have your fellow man have fun with you around you, and do a good turn daily and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of got wrapped up in the whole, I always wanted to be a stunt man too. That was one of my life goals, is to be a Hollywood stunt man. I thought that would be the coolest, most awesome job in the world. So I guess that was kind of I kind of pushed that aside while I was skiing and skydiving. And then I started getting into base jumping. And then, and it did eventually happen, even though I planned that move in my life so long ago and I forgot about it, it kind of exposed itself later on in life, and hey, that's been my goal forever. I think I can attain that. And, so don't give up on your goals, even if you haven't done them for a long time. I thought when I was 8 years old, I'd be a Hollywood stuntman. It didn't happen until I was 40,
Wow.
So, yeah.
And you're a member of the elite Red Bull Air Force now. What does that entail?
Yeah, that entails being really good at flying parachutes and landing in crazy tight landing areas and loving it. And basically we jump into an array of events, such as, we could jump into a football game, we can jump into a car race, we can jump into a birthday party. we do a lot of events like Red Bull has signature events too, like the Flugtag, which is a big party up on a barge 30 feet off the water or 10 meters off the water, where you push a flying vessel, a craft that you've created, off of the deck, the flight deck, and try to fly it into the water. Most of them just like take a nosedive.
They do,
crash,
don't they? When you get in like bathtubs and things like that, and they just go off the edge and go straight in the water. Yeah, I've seen you.
Yeah. Flying anvils, there's all kinds of things like that. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. And we jump into events like that too. And we try to land on the flight deck. Well, we don't try. We land on the flight deck. And if we miss, there's been a couple of us miss the flight deck and go into the drink. We just never let our friends forget that they've done that ever in their life.
Fantastic. What do your parents think of your career choice?
Oh, super proud.
That's
my
good.
mom, when I first started base jumping, she was really concerned until I showed her some videos, and she's like, "Oh, it's amazing." I'm all, "It is amazing, Mom. This is why I'm doing it." She goes, "Now I understand." And my dad, he's always just been proud, "Oh, chosen to fly, have you, son?"
Yes.
Finally, didn't listen to me about being a pilot in the Air Force, and then he knows I'm kicking myself now.
Do you remember your very, very first jump?
Oh yes, oh yeah.
And where was that?
Davis, California. It was September 6th, 1995. We did an 8-hour ground school, and at the end of the ground school, they're like, "Any more questions?" And we're all like, we're ready to go, And some guy goes, "What happens if you get this?" I'm all, "Oh, come on, man, really? You're supposed to kick, spread the risers and do this and do that." And then, "Any more questions? What happens if this?" I'm like, "Oh, come on, man, really? You're supposed to do this? Any more questions?" I'm all, "Yeah, can we jump now?" And Sig, my instructor, is like, "I thought you would never ask." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're first." I'm like, "Yeah." So, I jumped in the gear, got geared up, and did full gear check and got in the airplane and cruised up to altitude. And I got Dan O'Brien on my right-hand side, which is my reserve side. So he's in charge of, if I don't do anything, if I don't pull any handles, he's going to open up the parachute. And then I'm on my own for landing. And Craig O'Brien on my left. And it was amazing. Like, we get in the door and Dan's all like, he's just super serious. He's all business, and I check in with him and he's like, "Okay." And then I check left and he's just all party, and he's got his tongue hanging out of his mouth and his head waving side to side going, "Bah!" And his tongue just slapping across his face. And I do the same thing back at him, "Bah!" And then it's like, "Okay, ready, set, arch." And I come out of the plane and I thought everything was going to be flat, but when you fall out of an airplane, it's like sideways, because I was like looking straight out across the sky, and one guy's down low and one guy's up high. And I'm like, why is the sky off? If you're a pilot, you want the ball to be like flat and stable, but the airplane's going across the sky and you're basically sliding down what we call the hill until you get flat, because you're falling sideways. You're doing 100 miles an hour across the sky sideways. And then once you start to go straight down, then everything, flattens out like the ball on an airplane, And I just remember checking in again to the right, and he's like, "Bend your knees." I'm like, "Oh, bend my knees, okay." And the other guy, Craig, is like, "Blah," again. I'm like, "Blah." He's basically getting me to relax, and that's a very important part of skydiving, is relax, man. You don't fight the wind. Arch into it, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. And I did really good on that jump. I did my circles of awareness, altimeter, handle, check, in an arch, look, reach, pull. I did, my 3 practice ripcord pulls, and then did everything right. And then I'm like, I'm done, and I'm really high still, at 5,000 feet, you're supposed to lock in on your altimeter, and I'm done at about 8. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So I'm looking around. I'm all, don't forget to keep paying attention to your altimeter and, maintain altitude awareness. And when I opened, the 2 instructors, so when it was pull time, I pull, parachute opens, and I'm looking at these guys, and they just drop down below me, and they keep dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And they turn into these little dots. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going in, going into the ground is what it is, and then finally these parachutes open up. I go, whew, I thought my instructors just died, and then I'm all, who's going to talk to me on the radio while I go fly in,
How does it physically feel? And how does your stomach physically feel? Because I'm someone, when I go over a hump in the road, I don't like the way it makes my stomach feel. So how does it feel? Oh,
I actually love that feeling, but it's not like that. It's, for for skydiving, you actually need to go zero gravity or less than zero to get that stomach, dropping out of your body. You need to go like a little bit less than zero gravity, like a negative gravity, to get your stomach to kind of jump out of your body. But in skydiving, when you push out of the plane, you basically, if you exceed the speed limit, like times 2, and then stick your hand out the window, that's what it feels like. So don't go out there trying it. But if you're ever out on a country road, you can put your hand out the window and you can feel, half of what it feels like on your hand. But then you throw your whole body into that, and it's just like, it's a really good feeling. You just lay down on the air. It's like a bed of oxygen that you can breathe, and you just lay down on that. And it's a really good feeling. And then when you open the parachute, you get a couple of G-forces, probably around 4.
And does that make your stomach lurch?
No. Then you're like into the harness. It brings your body in an upright position, and this harness kind of catches you by the bum, and you're like, and then the parachute opens up, and then you're like, oh, sweet, and then it's all quiet again.
Yeah.
While you're falling, it's loud, it's windy, 120 miles an hour wind, and it's super windy and loud. But when you open up your parachute, everything quiets down, and it's only 20 miles an hour wind, and you can talk and think, and you're like, that just happened. It's so awesome, And you just like you're still busy, you're goal oriented, so you're like, check canopy, check horizon. Get your toggles. Okay, left turn, right turn, flare, controllability check, complete. And then once you've got all that stuff done, now you're starting to look for the drop zone and get upwind of it. And then I'm like listening in on the radio, like, where's Dan? He's not talking to me. What happened? And maybe he did go in, and I thought I saw his parachute, but I was wrong. Well, my radio is broken, so I just was on my own, and it worked out okay. I actually made it to the big field and landed, and I stood it up.
So it really sounds on first listen, it sounds a measured risk. It sounds risky, but it's
calculated.
It's a calculated risk, isn't it?
Yes.
How do you assess, especially with base jumping? How do you assess the risk of every jump you do?
Oh man, there's just okay. So you go.
Let's say it's the Eiffel Tower miles.
Yeah. So like, say you're doing the math and you're getting ready for a skydive, you're adding, and then when you're getting ready to jump off of anything, an Eiffel Tower, a bridge, anything, now you're doing trigonometry, to get ready for it. You are calculating everything. You're looking at all the factors that are out there. Basically, you're tuning your equipment up. You're packing the reserve parachute for a skydive, which is only packed by a rigger who's certified by the FAA. So you have to have that skill set, as opposed to a beginner skydiver who doesn't even really know how to pack a parachute. You've got to pack your base canopy, highly specialized gear, into a single parachute system. So you got one parachute going, and then you've got to make sure it opens perfectly, because you got one shot at it. And you've also you've got to know, be aware of, okay, don't have a bridle entanglement or a pilot chute hesitation or anything like that, because that could kill me.
Sorry, Miles, what was that? Did you say a bridle entanglement?
Yeah, you reach back, and it's like grabbing your wallet, but behind you is a handle, and you throw that handle out, and it's actually, the handle is a pilot chute, which is a small parachute like on an Army guy. Okay. And you throw that out into the air, and it pulls this bridle, which is webbing that goes from the pilot chute to your container, and it actually pops the pin. There's a pin that closes your container, and it pops that pin, and it opens up. That'll open up your container, and then the bridle's also not only involved with popping the pins and opening the container, but it also is attached to your parachute, which pulls it up into the air, because you've thrown your pilot chute out, which is like an anchor, like you're a dragster and you throw your parachute out, and then that anchor kind of starts to slow you down just a touch, but that's not going to save your life. So it needs to pull out a parachute also. And when the parachute comes up behind you and then the air hits that, then it's like, bang, you're open, and you're checking your canopy and trying to manage whatever opening that you've had, whether it be an off-heading opening, on-heading opening, line twists, a line over. There's all kinds of things that can go on in an instant, and you've got to just be ready for that. And usually you get the beautiful opening, like bang, woohoo, yeah. Get your brakes and start flying, controlling your parachute and heading to your landing area. And on a base jump, you've got probably 25 seconds to fly to your landing area. And if you don't find the landing area, a landing area will find you. And some of them aren't very nice. Sometimes people land in odd places, like in water. I've even heard of people landing in power lines, and oh man, there's like a, you always want to set yourself up for success no matter what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to like, hey, I'm going to go drive to work, but I'm going to drive to work the opposite direction. That's not how you do it. You're going to go, okay, if I'm going to drive to work, what's the fastest route? Okay, boom, this. All right. And I'm going to get coffee before I get in the car because I'm going to need that, or you know what I mean? You like always plan ahead.
Yeah.
And in base jumping, it's about 95 to 99% planning and about 5% execution. And everyone thinks the base jumpers are just crazy people, but there's a madness to our method. We are planning ahead and like, okay, what about this? What about that? You got to think of all the different factors that are coming at you and be ready for anything, because anything can happen at any given time. So be ready. It's like being a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
Be prepared. In terms of risk, you're married and you've got children, right?
Oh yeah.
Does it irritate you when people say, and I imagine they do, you're a father, why do you take such risks?
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot?
Yeah. Don't judge me.
I bet you do.
But you know what? To each his own. Some people, they, do what makes you happy, and try not to make me less happy would be a nice rule of thumb in life, right?
Quite.
But I mean, hey, if you're not comfortable with me skydiving and when having kids, we don't necessarily need to hang out. That's cool because I got other friends, it's all rad in the hood. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm having troubles with that internally myself. I'm like, okay, I really need to focus on this jump. This one's kind of gnarly. And here's the bottom line. If it's like Spicoli, if you're just out there, you can't just call time out and stroll back onto the beach when you don't like the way things are going, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to make the right choices. My wife always says that, make good choices, and some people think by base jumping, I'm not making good choices, but you know what? I've been calculating my choices my whole life and using a lot of my intuitive internal organisms to keep myself alive. And to me, it's kind of it's a sport, like, okay, here we go. What can kill me and how can I avoid that? All right, sweet. And how can I make this sport look easy, because it can be done. It's a very dangerous sport, but it can be done safely and it can be done to the point where it looks easy, and I've been, I learned how to coach a variety of sports and learn how to teach motor muscle mechanics and like there's 4 stages of motor learning. There's pre-control, control, utilization, and proficiency. And I'm not exactly a PE teacher anymore, but I'm using all the skills that I had acquired in college. And the pre-control stage, you're like, what are you doing? I don't understand what's going on. You can't really cognitively wrap your head around what's going on. And then the control stage is like you can cognitively process what's happening. And okay, I need to do this and do that and do these. But you're still having difficulty with the task. You still can't perform. And then utilization, you can do the task on and have mostly success with it. But you have to do it in a closed environment where everything's perfect. Okay. You can't jump with winds, you can't jump with a different light setting, and you've got to have, or maybe a headwind to land in, that kind of thing. It has to be the perfect conditions. So that's utilization. And then proficiency, you can do the task in an open setting with like people shooting darts at you or whatever it may be, throwing dodgeballs at you on landing, which is what we do. It's pretty fun. That's all we do is we just try to up the ante and like, okay, what can we do next? It would be so hilarious if we shot paintballs at each other while we're flying under canopy. Oh dude. And we just have like go have a beer with our friends and we come up with these mad tasks that we could do and write them all down on bar naps. And then the next morning we're like, what were we talking about? Oh, this. Oh man, let's do that. And then here we are the next day doing it.
Is that how your latest adventure of skyyaking was born?
Yeah, well,
can you explain that to us? Kayaking and skydiving.
Yeah, skyyaking is this brand new sport. It's not really brand new. It's kind of old now, but yeah, my friend Scott Lindgren, he does kayaking movies. He asked me, hey man, I do kayaking movies, and I've been watching ski movies, and you and Shane McConkey have been in a few of them, and and you're doing, it's not just skiing. Now we're seeing some parachutes, evolve into the skiing sports. Could you do something like that with a kayak? Could you jump it out of an airplane? And I'm like, let's think about that. Yes. So Scott planted the seed, and I was like, let's see, what are we going to do? And I went to the drop zone with a kayak, and the drop zone owner, Bill Doss, we're at the parachute center in Lodi. The drop zone owner, good morning. Drop zone owner, he said no. And I think his words weren't just no, they were like, oh, hell no. It was like, no, you're not taking kayak out of my airplane, And so we got stopped right away. But you know what? Things don't get done when you listen to everyone that says no. Then you have to think about why they said no and figure out how we can help change his mind and how we can do things to work. So we pressed on, and we took the Skyac to a bridge. And I actually base jumped it first off the bottom of this, underneath the steel of this bridge.
So you're actually you're sat in the kayak?
Yeah.
How'd you get, did someone push you off? How'd you get off the bridge in a kayak?
I was in control of my own destiny. What happened was, I got into this, so there's a catwalk, and then below the catwalk is the lower steel of the bridge. And up on the catwalk, I climbed into the boat and got the skirt on, because you have to have the skirt to close the cockpit.
Sure.
And I got into there, but I had a harness on, a waist harness with a gree, which is like a self-locking belay device. And we lowered a rope. We tied a rope above me so I can clip into it. And we lowered this rope down through the steel. And basically I rappelled down the rope. I got pushed over the edge, which was hilarious because my buddy, he tried to lift me up over the rail, and I slid backwards, and he had to lift the whole thing and shove me over the rail. I'm all, thank God you're here, And so he got me over the rail, and I rappelled down, and Shane was down below on the steel, my bro, main jump partner, Shane McConkey, and he has a paddle and a knife, and I get down there, and I get below the steel just enough to like rappel off the end of the rope. And then he hands me the knife, and I cut the end of the rope so that I basically rappel another 4 inches, and I'm off the rope. So I cut the rope, hand him the knife, hand him my pilot chute, where he's going to hold the pilot chute while I rappel off the rope and static line my opening. And then he hands me a paddle, because we got cameras on, and we're going to shoot this whole thing for a kayaking movie called Air Rated, AERRATED, I guess is how you spell it. And we pulled it off like quite successfully, like opened up like immediately. I rappelled off the end and opened up, and instead of having to get my brakes, I had the perfect opening. I just pretended like I was paddling the kayak, and we redubbed it the Skyac after that. And
so did you
landed in the river?
Where you landed in? It's insane. That's absolutely insane. Can anyone see? Is there any YouTube footage of this?
I believe there is, yes. And I know that Scott has, he's made kayaking movies called Air Rated and Burning Time.
Okay.
And if you throw some YouTube on the Burning Time and Air Rated, you'll see all kinds of fun things, not just me doing kayaking footage, but like some guys sliding in boats down rocks and like skipping across water like madmen. And I got some other ideas from them doing that sort of thing to take kayaking to the next level and out of airplanes and skipping across water. And oh man, yeah, it's evolved.
So you have jumped out. You have skayaked out of a plane, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, about 80 times now.
80 times. Okay. But what I can't understand is, how does the kayak not sort of spin round? How does it stay?
That's the trick. That is the trick.
Miles magic.
It wants to throw you around, and you either control the kayak or it'll control you, just like the landing area thing. And it's not an easy thing. It's like sitting on an exercise ball and staying upright on it. And while there's, wind getting thrown around at you, and it's really loud and really windy. And and once you're upright on the boat, you're golden. It kind of hooks up the bottom. But it also depends on the boat, because I've had boats like the Kingpin that flipped me upside down, and I could not get upright on it. And so I'm stuck upside down, and I had to get out of the boat. I had to ditch it and save myself. At 5,000 feet was my decision altitude. So at 5,000 feet, I'm like, I'm not in control of the situation anymore, so I got to change this. And so I got out of the boat. We offset the spot at the drop zone so that I could ditch the kayak and it'll land out in big fields, and it just fluttered down to the ground after it, because when you pull yourself out of a kayak when you're upside down, it wants to take all the skin off of your shins and hurt your ankles, because it comes off mighty fast.
Yeah, sure.
And then, it was pretty awesome. I opened up my parachute and I'm like, oh, my ankles, did I break them?
My legs
did I break
have gone.
them? Are they broken? I'm all moving them around. Oh, they hurt so bad. I don't know if I can stand up this landing, and I'm pushing them against my legs. Nope, not broken. Okay, cool. So there's a lot of R&D going on, a lot of trial and error going on in these sports.
What do you think? I'm trying to find the why. What do you think is at your core which motivates you to keep doing this and to keep pushing and to keep trying something else? What's really driving you?
I think in college I learned, about learning. Whenever you stop learning, you're a shark that stops swimming. You might as well give in, because you're not doing anything anymore. And I just want to keep moving and keep things going forward and keep the ideas flowing, and whoa, is this possible? Yeah, this is possible. Wait a minute. Are you sure it's possible? Let's make it, let's prove it. It's like finding a postulate and proving a theory. And we try to find the most crazy postulates we can prove, we're like, dude, you're out of your dang mind for trying that. Yeah, that's right. That was a Shane laugh, because that's where I got this from, McConkey. He's always thinking outside of the box, and and everyone thought he was out of his mind. And yes, he was out of his mind, but he proved a lot of postulates into theories, and it's just basically this is what is possible to do as humans, and let's go prove it, And some things are harder than others to prove, and more dangerous than others. But if you want to break down every skill there is in life, you can break it down into parts and get to the end. When you learn how to, say, throw a ball, for instance, you're not going to just run out there, grab a ball, and pitch it and throw it at 100 miles an hour, fastball. No, you've got to learn how to, you got to bring your arm back, step forward, throw into it. And you've got to have, you've got to build your muscles up to be able to perform that task as well. So there's a whole step progression to get to a place, and you can't skip steps, or else you're kind of cheating yourself, and you may not make it to that place, or you may or may not make it to that place still. But I mean, if you go through the level of progression and don't skip steps, then you get to enjoy the ride. You get to enjoy the journey on the way to the final destination, the ultimate goal, And that's my thing, is I want to be 80 years old on the front deck going, hey, check out this sport of kayaking. You never kayak, Grandpa. Oh, yeah, well, check this thing out, And here we go. This is called a DVD.
Yes, I know. Can you imagine? Well, there's something tells me that come 80, you're probably still going to be doing something absolutely nuts. I can't imagine you sitting still. Do you actually? Do you relax much, ever?
I love relaxing for about 5 minutes a day. I think everyone should relax a little bit in life, Yeah. I think it's super important to have reflection time on, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Because I know a lot of other people are throwing that at me, so I might as well think about it as well, so I have a good answer for them, And
what is I know we've already kind of touched on this, but what do you think what's the answer that you give the most as to the why you're doing it?
Why? Because you can. Keep it simple. And because it makes me happy, and it's one of those things, is I'm trying to prove what's possible. What can humans possibly do? And check this out. You didn't think that you could do this, but you know what? You can. And all you have to do is these million steps, and you can get there too.
And you can be just like me. So you've actually got a few records, haven't you? You've got 4,000 base jumps.
Yes.
Is it more than
Yeah.
it was? Is it more than that now? It probably is.
Oh yeah, we're coming up on 4,100 right now. Yeah, that record doesn't just sit still. I live in Idaho because you're a product of your environment. So I place myself mostly because where my wife was born and raised, and we're close to family. Just fortunate enough to have met my love, who lives in a place where I love to do things where there's a prime bridge that's legal base jumping year round. And here we are. I just zip on over to the bridge. It's a 10-minute drive from my house. And now it's summertime. I got to figure out how far it is on a bicycle because there's a new bike path. Oh man, I'm going to be so healthy this summer. Look out. And, but yeah, I can just go there and bang out 3 jumps in an hour. And that's kind of thing is you want to place yourself in a user-friendly environment for what you want to do. You don't just like say, hey, I want to be a scuba diver and move to Mount Everest. That's not going to work. You have to, plan ahead and say, okay, I want to be a base jumper where I'm going to live in a place where it's safe-ish, and get into that zone and make things happen. And in the right environment, you'll get the right outcome. That's what I'm doing.
Miles, what's been your most exhilarating base jump?
Most exhilarating? Well, I mean, is that the one that I barely survived and my adrenal glands squeezed so hard that it kind of...
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, tell us about that one.
Yeah, sometimes, in life, you don't make your best decisions, and I jumped in some not so conducive winds to wingsuit off of Ponzione del Nasca, this new cliff that we were opening in Italy. And my friend Uli Gegenschatz, he took us off this cliff. He went first, and he's got this, brand new giant wingsuit. It's a vampire, and he flew way out. And then Carson Klein, he goes off right after him and flies way out. And I've got this real small old school wingsuit, which is like really old school now. And I get off and I'm not flying way out and I'm like in the hole. And to make matters worse is like, we're trying to get the shot for this TV show that we're doing. And those guys wait for the perfect wind and there's a helicopter shooting it and it's just hovering. And they wait like 5-10 minutes each and they get a nice lull and then they go. And then so they waited till the nice winds before they exited to have a nice start and a good flight. And then it's my turn. So they go, okay, Miles, is it cool if we come from behind and right as we crest the edge, you go and we get the reveal shot? I'm like, oh, that would be so beautiful. Let's do that, And so I'm standing by and here they come. And right as they come up, the big gusts come. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going for it, which was just a bad decision, Mm-hmm. And so I took off in the big gusts and made the start, but not as good a start that my friends had earlier. And I'm flying, and I got a long way to go. And I'm low. Like those guys popped up and they were like high on the hillside and far out into the valley. And I'm like low and I'm just following the contours of the hill the entire way. And there's a couple points where I get in super low and let out a couple of expletives that can't really say on the radio. I was like, oh, this isn't where I want to be. And I was lower than I could pull, just to make down to the landing area. Mm-hmm. And as I get down to the bottom, I could see Uli. I could see his face. That's how close I'm getting to the ground. Mm-hmm. And I could see him yelling at me, pull. And I couldn't quite hear him, but I'm reading his mouth and it's like I could hear him, Mm-hmm. It was kind of like one of those Star Wars moments. Use the Force, Luke, and I'm looking at Uli going, pull. And I shake my head no, because right now, if I pulled, I'm going to open and go right crashing into that tree or that tree, and I got to wait till that one last drop off right before you. And basically I pulled and opened my parachute at about 60 feet off the deck. It was pretty ridiculous. And I opened up, so we call it dirty low. That was dirty low, man. And I opened so dirty low. And I opened up and I tried to like rear riser to the right because I didn't have time to get my brakes and surge the canopy and then flare. So I just rear risered and was ready to just try and stand it up. And as I'm rear risering to the right, trying to avoid the tree that I pulled next to, my canopy hooks the tree and whips me around to the left. And now I'm landing on the roof of this house that Uli's standing next to. And I just kind of met it with my feet and my butt and went, ba-bang. And I yelled, I'm okay, before my parachute had even come down over my head. And here I am, like, standing up and like checking my legs and like, I really am okay. He's yelling at me. He's so mad. Like, dude, I don't want to watch you die. I don't want you to watch me die too. I'm really sorry. And that's all I kept doing is apologizing all evening. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I just knew I had to make it down there and not up there. And it was weird because I had this dream the night before how to pull and fly. And then I actually drove the car down we were up in Switzerland, driving down to Italy to go meet the guys to go do this cliff. And so the whole drive, everyone's sleeping. And all I was thinking about was, okay, you can't just pull and sink. You can't just get into a ball and drop down. You're going to die. You need to pull and stay flying. And as soon as you open, cut away your wings, reach up. And, and I had this going in my head the whole time. And you know how you manifest destiny? You can plan yourself to do whatever you want to happen. And I think I planned that to happen just by thinking about it over and over and over and over the whole way. And it actually worked out to my advantage because I was stuck deep in the pocket and had to get out of there. And I ended up, pulling, cutting away my wing and getting my risers. Otherwise, things might not have turned out as well as they had. And I had zero compensatory movement on that. Everything was directed at what I needed to do. I didn't waste any movements whatsoever. It was like, pull, flare up. When the canopy caught me, my both arms came in to do one big arm sweep to disconnect my wings and then reach up to the risers and then turn. And if I had missed a step or hesitated in any fashion, it would have been a totally different outcome. And I just planned that in my brain over and over and over and just visualized. I think that's the key to all of these sports or to anything you do in life is to visualize it. If you could see it, then you could be it. And if you can't see it, then might as well keep trying to see it before you try to do it because you're going to have a lot better outcome.
Is that how you generally prepare for every jump that you do? Do you
Yes.
run through it? Okay, so beforehand, what's the riskiest thing you've ever done?
The riskiest thing I've ever done?
Where you've actually been standing there thinking, I'm not sure about this.
Probably kayaking would be right up there. But I would say Shane McConkey and I, we jumped off of the New River Gorge Bridge with a rope attached to each of us, 100-foot rope. And we did this thing where we throw an unpacked parachute up into the air. And once that opens, Shane's, his goal is to fly straight out over the river and the rope's attached to his leg straps and it's attached to a cutaway system on myself. And I have another parachute packed, so basically we open up parachutes. I fly to the right and cut away my parachute. And then I rope swing off of Shane, who's flying a parachute. And then I release and I cut away from that rope. And then I fall and open up another parachute. Well, Shane missed the memo and he went left and put me on the hillside on this tight gorge down below. It's not really tight. It's a royal gorge. It's in West Virginia at Bridge Day, the Royal Gorge. And if he had gone straight and I had flung straight down the middle of the river, I would have opened at 200 feet up off the deck. But as it went, he went a little left and I was swinging on him looking, oh no, I'm going into the hillside and I have just enough altitude to open my parachute. Or I could just stay on the rope and let Shane land me on this 100-foot rope dangling from below him. So, ching, cut away the rope immediately, right? And take matters into my own hands. And I got flung out. I pitched. I get into this big, giant cat-like position, with even my toes pointed out and fingertips spread wide. And I'm like, I got to catch all the air that I can and slow this thing down. And then finally, I get this parachute to come off my back. And as it does, I'm going into this tree. So the parachute opens. And right as it inflates, I go into the top of this 100-foot tree that's 100 foot up on the bank. And I just kind of Rambo'd myself into it, like, tuck your arms and legs in so that it doesn't hit a branch and get broken and or speared. So I just tucked everything in tight. And you know how Sylvester Stallone, how he takes his mouth and he makes his lip go down to one side and goes, Adrian, like that. Well, that's what I was doing. And it was funny because I had pictured that in my mind, Rambo going through the trees all, and as I was going into the trees. And I also pictured my daughter, Dorothy, going, Daddy. And I was like, you better stick this, Daddy. And I did, and came out unscathed, but landed in a tree. And that was my most gnarly moment right there. And took an hour for me to get rescued out of the tree by this big dude with no neck who threw a softball 100 feet up into the air, and he's like, I'm like, you can't throw a ball that high. He's like, you just catch it. And it bounced right off my hands.
So why did he throw a ball at you?
Oh, it was connected to a string that was connected to a rope that I can throw over a branch, and then I can rappel out of the tree.
Right, okay. I thought he was trying to knock you out of the tree.
Out in the tallest part of the tree and the real thin branches. And that's not really where you want to be when you're, strapped into a parachute. Because if that tree snapped off, I could have fallen, and that would have been a bad ending to a, bad landing.
So do you ever regret any of the jumps you've made?
I mean, if you live life with regret, what are you doing? You're kicking yourself, and, you could learn from the mistakes that you've made. It's better to learn from the mistakes of others because you won't live long enough to make them all yourself. But I mean, you can't say that you never regret anything in life, but I just think that it's important to just keep moving forward and learn from your mistakes instead of regret them,
And is there still a jump on your wish list you're yet to conquer?
Oh, there's many jumps. I've got a couple, on the hit list that I kind of like to draw them out. And I'm not like the best artist in the world by any means, but I really like to, draw out what I'd like to do so that I can kind of start visualizing it. And then, I'll show it to my friends and they'll go, oh, that's cool. Check this out. And then they'll go, what about this? And then, oh, I didn't even think of that, so it's good to have friends with good imaginations who can, help you progress. But there's a few jumps. There's a couple in particular that I've got my mind set on. Some of them having to do with rope swings and buildings and wingsuits and all kinds of fun things. I want to put on an event where we jump off of a building like a giant skyscraper, or even not so giant, just a 600-footer would be perfect. And with a big rope swing where we could have an event like rope swinging off of a building with aerial contests in the air, like doing flips and twists and spins. And there's so many things you can do off of a rope where you can like fling yourself out, or you can go up and then slowly start coming back. And, there's a million ideas. And I'd like to do a rope swing base jumping competition someday. Land on the beach with accuracy, and if you don't hit a bullseye, then that jump doesn't get scored. So, you have to be out on the beach where the big party is, and wingsuits are flying by the top of the building and opening up, doing accuracy as well. I mean, that's the big party I want to get going, so. Do
you ever feel nervous?
Oh, always. Always. If you don't feel nervous, what are you doing? There's something to be said about that. The nervousness that you feel before you do anything, it helps you, the fear helps you kind of gain your senses and heighten your awareness and make your pistons fire so that you can focus on what you need to do. Because if there's no fear in your life, you're just kind of floating through, right? And I think it's important to kind of give yourself a little bit of a scare, not every day, but, yeah, it's good in a positive way too. You don't need to go out there and freak yourself out by making things dangerous for you or other people. But yeah, like right now I'm walking on this curb, and I'm just practicing balance, and I'm kind of walking around these bushes and, so like when I was hanging with my son, Eli, and I'm like, hey, Eli, jump up on that. Let's see your skills, bro. And he was like doing the same thing last night. And mad skills. The kid's got talent, and
oh, no.
I think it's important to just keep training and practicing and scare yourself a little bit. It's just pretty fun,
So how do you actually overcome fear?
I'm sorry?
How do you actually overcome the fear?
How do you overcome fear is you don't succumb to it. You don't let it have the best of you. Because what fear does is it tries to break down the machine and tries to get you to panic. And as long as you can avoid panic and stay focused and do the task, what you're supposed to do, as soon as you panic, you're like, okay, now you are, dust in the wind and getting blown around to wherever it's going to take you. But if you can remain focused, you can fly that wind and fly that right where you want to be. So hopefully right where you want to be. Sometimes you have to make an alternate landing area, but yeah, if you can stay focused, and when stuff's going on all around you and you're like, oh boy, what's going on? Okay, now we've got an earthquake, now we've got a fire. What do we need to do? We need to get to the car and get to this park and maybe grab some friends along the way, I'm thinking of like, I don't know, Jurassic Park or something. But yeah, there's going to be an event in your life where everything is going to go south. And if you can keep your head about you, you can make it to where you need to be. So the key thing is never give up. I always think of it as there's this frog that's in the mouth of a giant pelican, and the pelican's about to swallow the frog. Only out of the corners of the mouth of the pelican, there comes these two hands, and it's reaching out around and it's grabbing the throat of the pelican, squeezing so that the pelican can't swallow the frog. And he's just holding himself in the mouth, not letting them get swallowed, and never give up. I think that's the most important thing.
Miles, what would you like your legacy to be?
My legacy to be? It's my family, my children, and to show what is possible, what can be done out there, and to inspire people to do what they love. I think that's the most important thing, is like, do what you love. Because here we are. If you try to make sense of this whole, like, why are we here? And we're on this ball that's vortexing around the sun, that's vortexing through the galaxy, that's probably vortexing through something else that we don't even know about. If you try to figure that out and you find the answer, let me know, because I'm still pondering that one myself. So I think that humans here are here to see, do what you love to do, and try. I just like to try and make the world a better place for everyone, and hopefully I can come up with a formula like Bill and Ted on their Excellent Adventure did, where they brought harmony to the universe. That's kind of what I'd like to do. But until then, I'm just going to go base jumping, skydiving, skyacking, and have fun with my friends, and try to create positive memories on Earth.
You must be the coolest dad ever. Do you ever visit your kids' school on a careers day?
I have, totally, yeah.
Mr.
Dasher. Yeah, totally. Got some videos for you kids. Check it out. Got some wings. Yeah, Delta hands these things out. I keep them. Here you go, everybody. You got your pilot wings. All right. So yeah, it's good times for sure.
Fabulous. And do you have any advice for anyone listening who really likes the sound of base jumping and skydiving? Because it sounds inaccessible, like it wouldn't be an easy, inexpensive hobby to take up. Is that right?
It costs a lot, and it costs more than if you really look at it. I mean, there's monetarily costs where you got to pay for skydiving lessons and pay for the trips to go to these places and learn how to do things. Then there's also time expenses where you're going to throw years of your life at this, and it's like anything. Whatever you want to do, I would say go in all the way, or at least 80%, so that you can back up and look at it and kind of have a moment of reflection as to what's going on. Because if you fully engulf yourself into something, you may not realize that you're spinning in and you haven't noticed that. So it's always good to take time periods to step back and look at what's going on, the big picture. And that's what video helps me to do, reciprocal feedback, where you video what just happened and you come and look at it and you're like, my arms aren't doing that. Oh yeah, they are. So I think being awareness is the key to life, is to, don't just get stuck in your rut, but there's ruts that are good to go into and work and shape, but it's good to step back and look outside the box and just kind of be aware of what's going on in your surroundings and in the surroundings around your surroundings, and look for the big picture.
Wise words, Miles. Where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of all over the web. I've got a lot of YouTube videos on Miles D101 and Sky Animals, and with the Red Bull Air Force, we've got a Red Bull Air Force Facebook page and website. The Facebook page is a little bit more updated, and that's pretty much where we're at. We have a web series called Miles Above, and we just started shooting season number 2. So Miles Above season 1, that one's already been shot and it won an award. The Webby Awards, and now we're making season 2, and it's just basically my friends and our life exploits, and how we like to go out and have fun and rock and roll and explore space, the space above your house.
Is it, Miles? Is it always fun? Is there ever a time when something seriously goes wrong?
Oh yeah. Well, that with extreme highs come extreme lows, and I've lost friends. So I mean, you've got to be ready to deal with certain situations, and even if you're not ready to deal with them, you have to just deal with them anyway. I've lost my best friends in this sport, and we have a club called Last Man Standing, and we're trying to be the last man standing in our club, and we've lost some friends and made our little our little game, last man standing, not so fun, but that's kind of like life, really, because nobody gets out alive, and to be the last man standing, you have to watch all of your friends go in first, which is not a fun thing to do. But you know what? That's part of life. So, I mean, it's part of growing and becoming who you are. You're going to get like bad obstacles thrown at you. It's not all just fun and games and sunshine and rainbows, And I would say to look at one of the things I like to do is check out Sylvester Stallone when he does the speech in Rocky. I don't know if it's Rocky 9. It's not all sunshine and rainbows with life, things are going to hit you hard, and it's how you get up, how you keep going, and that speech that Sylvester Stallone gave kind of has a strong impact in my life. And like, it's just be strong, and strength comes in many ways. It's not just physical strength where you can get up there and overpower and run through somebody, but mental power and longevity power and like stay the course power. There's so many ways to be strong. And I think, that's kind of one of the things in life is testing you. Life's always a test. Everything's going on is always a test. And people call me crazy, but I think if you're not doing what you love, then I think you're crazy. You need to go check out something fun today,
Really inspiring. I think it's going to put everyone's mundane life into perspective. I think anyone's going to listen to this and think,
happy Monday.
Oh, so I'll just...
Mondays are like boring and whatever, but dude, this is your beginning of your week, What are you going to do this week? Let's make a plan.
Exactly.
Listeners,
what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What a thought-provoking end to our conversation, Miles. Thank you. What an inspiration. Excellent.
Yeah, Victoria, thank you.
Really, really inspiring speaking with you. Like I said, it made my day feel really dull in comparison. But
can I just sing one song that I remember from England way a long time ago in 1986 when I was going to high school in Alconbury between Peterborough and Cambridge?
No way.
I think it goes something like this. And I know everyone loves this song. I think it starts like, hold a chicken in the air, stick a deck chair up your nose, fly a jumbo jet, and then bury all your clothes. Paint your left knee green. All right, I'm done.
That's it. I remember that. Oh, what
remember
was
that song?
I do. Oh, I'm sure that was from a comedy show called Spitting Image. I can't remember, but I do.
It was
I remember
the number one song in
I
England
remember that from school.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So funny. But thanks for that.
Sorry to plant that seed.
Oh, take care, Miles. Have a lovely day, won't you?
Good times. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. See
rock
you
and roll, sister.
Cheers, Miles. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Ciao.
And sincere thanks for listening. For all references and resources mentioned in today's episode, please visit the podcast page on offtheropes.com. Before you go, a small plea. We want to help as many people as possible discover their potential and overcome any adversity blocking their path. If you feel today's episode could inspire someone else, please share it via the social media icons on the Off the Ropes website. And if you're able to leave a review on iTunes, it'll help us enormously coax others off the ropes. And finally, if you'd like to receive weekly inspiring conversations drop into your inbox every Sunday, please subscribe to the Off the Ropes podcast via the website or via iTunes. Thanks again, wishing you an inspiring day.